What's the worst/most unfair thing a teacher has ever done to you or a classmate? My father died early morning of the first day back at school for the year. He had been sick a few months and most of my summer holidays was me visiting him at the hospice. At the end of the previous school year the school decided to change the school top. I went back to school day 2 and I was called up to the vice principal's office because I didn't have a new shirt. They knew my father had died the previous day. I was told if I didn't have the right shirt tomorrow I would be suspended. I had to scrape together the money and get the bus to the shops to get the shirt that day because my mum was dealing with enough shit and I didn't want to add to it. That was the day I stopped caring about school and it was a real turning point for the worse in my life. I was an A student before then. In first grade, I didn't want to eat a brownie that a classmate had brought in for their birthday. My teacher decided that this was incredibly rude and that I wasn't allowed to go outside for recess until I ate the brownie. When she wasn't looking, I wrapped it in a napkin and placed it carefully in the garbage can. She noticed, took it out of trash, unwrapped it, and still made me eat it. The class was learning about the legal system and doing a mock trial. The case involved a girl being sexually assaulted. The student who was picked to play the girl, coincidentally, had been a victim in real life. She felt it was going to be too draining on her and tried to get out of the role. The teacher wanted an explanation, but she wasn't willing to share. She was just saying it was very private. It was not clicking in the teacher's head why a girl may have very private reasons not to play a sexual assault victim in front of a class. She kept on trying, and finally the teacher raised his voice. You're holding up this project for the entire class for no apparent reason. Why the fuck is this such an issue? The whole class was looking at her at this point when she said she had been a victim and started crying. As far as I know the teacher didn't face repercussions, but the project was changed. My 5th grade teacher Mrs. Hannah would bully this kid that obviously had serious behavioral/family issues. She was not at all sympathetic to him and literally made him sit in a cubicle desk the entire day that she called the box. It was so infuriating and humiliating to watch. She also once told me she was going to nail my ears to the wall. So I reported her. I hated her so much and I felt really bad for the kid that she really scapegoated. Hope he's doing well today. I had a pre-algebra teacher in middle school who didn't want to actually teach us or grade things, so she made the majority of our class grade for one grading period based on one project where we were just supposed to find math errors in the real world, like 0.99c instead of 99c on a sign at a store, and put them in a folder. If you didn't have a certain number of these typos in your folder, you failed, and she got to decide whether the ones you found were good enough to count. She eventually got fired, and then her boyfriend went to jail for coming to the administration building that summer with a pistol looking for revenge against the superintendent, who wasn't even there. I had an algebra teacher that legit didn't know algebra. She was actually a computer teacher, but the school needed someone for algebra and didn't want to hire another teacher. She would stand at the board, write a problem from the book, then flip to the answer key and write down the answer. When we asked her how she worked the problem, she always said look in the book. On her first day of subbing she did roll call. I said that's my name, don't wear it out or something like that. She went ballistic and sent me to the principal's office, who found it hilarious. She of course picked on me the whole time after that, asking me weird religious questions that I never got cause I went to Catholic school but was from a non-religious family. She also kept calling me a Satanist and stuff and said she wouldn't pray for me. Weird women. About 6 years later I fucked her hot daughter. My divorced, single mom family moved to a small town when I was in 2nd grade. My dad was a severe alcoholic, but people didn't know that yet. There was a boy who was always dressed in weird combinations of hand-me-downs, and he acted out sometimes. When I asked about him, people said he was messed up and his parents were drunks. One day there was some sort of altercation because we had to hand in a family history thing with our parents' notes, and his was incomplete or fucked up, and he got mad and gave up. I stood up for him and told the teacher she was being awful. I had lied on my sheet because I was embarrassed about my family, but he had just told everyone what was what. I got a detention for standing up for him, and he got a 5-day suspension for arguing with the teacher and being nasty about saying what he knew about his family. That teacher had no clue about child abuse. I had a teacher who hated me. To the best of my knowledge, I never did anything to make her feel that way at first, or if I did, it was something stupid and petty. Not being the type to enjoy being hated, I made her life as difficult as I could without breaking rules. Then this bitch starts telling me I'm not turning in homework assignments. Are you serious? I handed it to you yesterday, same time as everyone else. Principal calls my parents about me apparently just not trying. So they yell at me for a while and sit with me every night for 2 weeks while I do my stupid homework. Then this genius lady tells me again that I need to start doing homework or I'm gonna fail the class. This message ends up with the principal and ends up with my parents. Now they didn't believe me before this point, but now they knew I was doing my homework and something fishy was going on. My mom asked to meet with the teacher. We go to this parent-teacher meetup and she's sitting there all smug. She tells my mom he isn't doing his homework. My mom fires back, I know he is. I've been making sure he has. Well, then he must be choosing not to turn it in. Or maybe he's just not doing the homework for this class. Do you help him with the work we are doing right now? I'll show you the assignment. She grabs a folder, opens it up, and right on top is my ungraded assignment. It's got my name on the top in big ol' letters. My mom notices too and snatched it, gave the teacher a look, and got up and walked down the hall to the principal's office. I had never seen a teacher look so much like they had just shit the bed. It was incredible. Anyway, she finished out the school year but was not present the next year. I guess there were a lot of issues with her. In 6th grade, my English class was starting the Holocaust unit. To help us understand the impact of it, she told us some stories from survivors of the Holocaust. During one story about a person's experience in a concentration camp, I started crying because it reminded me of my Cambodian grandparents who had been killed in labor camps by the Khmer Rouge. My teacher immediately became pissed and yelled at me, accusing me of making fun of the Holocaust. When I told her my grandparents had died in camps, she called me an attention seeker and told me that this unit was not about me. It really broke my heart, considering she had been one of my favorite teachers until that point. I couldn't understand why she thought I was lying and how she could have ever thought I was seeking attention by talking about it. Just thinking about it makes me so upset. I remember growing up when physical punishment was allowed. I still remember my 3rd grade teacher who would line up students who did not do homework or didn't do well on exams front of the whole class. She grabbed the side hair front of the ear, then yanked it up and down while yelling, "Do better, work harder." If we screamed or cried, she would hit us on the palm of our hands with a thin wooden stick, then told the crying ones to wash the faces and come back when they calmed down. This was more harsh towards boys. She made me fear teachers in general. I remember when I came to the States, my parents were called to the school when I flinched when a teacher raised her hand near me. The school thought that I was being physically abused at home. I wasn't, but I thought that the teacher was about to hit me. This reminds me of a kid when I was younger. I'll call him Ryan for the sake of anonymity. One day we are all in French class, about 15 years ago now, and the Ryan is having a bad day. He was a good guy, but he had some behavioral issues that stemmed from his home life. Our French teacher, a very unhappy man from Quebec with control issues, Mr. Douche is what I'll call him for anonymity, decided that, since Ryan seemed distant, that the best thing to do would be to pick on him all class. I could tell that Ryan was getting more and more frustrated, but I had no idea what was coming next. During a video presentation, Ryan had his head down on his desk, obviously upset, and Mr. Douche decided that his lack of attention was unacceptable, so without warning he slapped the corner of Ryan's desk with a yardstick, meter ruler, and it snaps in half. Unfortunately for Mr. Douche, so did Ryan's psyche. He jumped up and immediately threw his desk past the teacher, still not sure if he was trying to hit him or just scare him with it, and then proceeded to lay into this Frenglish bastard like a drunk sailor. Fists fly and the French teacher goes down, so several other students pull Ryan off the teacher, mostly because we didn't want it to be worse for him, not out concern for someone. That pushed him to snap, and Ryan walked out of class and out of the school. Ryan didn't come back to class, later found out he had gone to a specialty school with smaller classes for students with special needs, and Mr. Douche returned after about a week off with bruises still on his face clearly visible, and he was very timid around the class for the rest of the year, and was never quite the same again. I was this shy nerdy kid who kept to himself, a prime target for bullies. Spent most of 8th grade trying to fight off a group of assholes who unrelentingly pushed me around. One day Mrs. V, my history teacher, pulled me out of English class into the hallway and went on a tirade of obscenities about how I embarrassed her. Supposedly I had photoshopped her head on a naked body and had posted it on the school's website. Her evidence, my name that was submitted with the post. I stood in the hallway and cried. To her this was an admission of my guilt, pulled me into principal's office, and waited till my parents came. I was suspended for a week and evaluated by a therapist for my sexual deviance. I come back to school the following week to find out that one of bullies got caught babbling about posting more pictures to get me expelled. The assholes get pulled into the office and the truth comes out. They were the ones who posted the pictures. They were suspended immediately. Never got an apology from Mrs. V. She actually treated me like shit for the rest of the school year because she couldn't accept she made a mistake. She actually called me a pervert one day after passing her in the hallway to another class. Fuck you, Mrs. V.